Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a new project which is going to be a quiz game. So in this project we're going to be using an API. So first thing we're going to do is get our link. So to get the quiz game API we're going to open our browser. Then we're going to search for quiz game API. Then we're going to pick the link which is from the website opentdb.com. So we're going to open that website, which is going to provide us with the quiz API that we're going to be using. So here it gives us different options. So for our quiz game, it's going to be 10 questions and it's going to be a true or false question. So that is what we're going to do. So we don't need to change the number of questions. We can select a category if we want one. Here we're not going to select any. For the sake of an example, we're just going to pick the easy difficulty and we're going to select a type. So in this one, we're going to be doing a true or false quiz. Then finally, we can press on generate API link to get our API link. So as you can see here, we have our link. So we're going to copy it. Then back in our editor, we're going to create a new file. We're going to call it quizgame.py. And what is our plan here? So first we're going to be importing requests so we can use our API. Then we're going to get the length of the result. Then using that length, we're going to have a for loop that's going to run 10 times in our case, because we're going to have 10 questions. Then in each iteration, it's going to print out the question and it's going to ask the user true or false. Then it's going to check if their answer is correct. Then based on that, it's going to increment their score if they get the answer correct, or else it's going to print out incorrect. And finally, it's going to print out their result. So first we're going to have our import statements. The first one is import requests. Then we're going to have a variable called, let's just call it quiz data, which is going to get our API. So we're going to have requests.get. Then inside the get function, we're going to provide the API we got from the website. So we're going to paste it in here. Then once we have our API, we're going to print out the JSON format so we can see what we're going to be dealing with. So let's just print it out. So let's print out quiz data.json. We're going to save our file and we're going to run it. So this is the JSON format of our questions list. So as you can see, we have response code, we have results, we have category, we have type, we have difficulty, then we have question. That is what we need, the question parameter, because that is what contains the actual question. So using that, and we're also going to be using the correct answer parameter, which is going to store the correct answer. So we're going to be using those two to display the question to the user and to check if the user's answer is the same as the correct answer. So first we're going to have our length variable, which is going to be equal to len of quiz data.json. So now we're in the JSON format. Then we want the results key. So inside the results key, it's going to be a list, and this list, the length of this list is going to be equal to the number of questions we have. And we can get rid of the print statement because we don't need to print it anymore. Then once we have our length, now we can start our for loop. So we're going to say for I in range length. So this is going to run 10 times. So for clarity purposes, we're going to print out I plus 1. So what this is going to be is the first is going to print out 1 followed by the question, then 2 followed by the question. It's just the number of questions. So it's going to be I plus 1. Then we're going to use the end parameter for print. So what the end parameter does is it's going to change the default value for end. So the default value for end of a print statement is a new line. That means after we print something, the print function is going to end with a new line. So if we print hello world, then it's going to end with a new line. So if we want to change it with something else, we can using the second parameter. So we're going to say end equals, then we're going to have a closing bracket followed by a space. So this is just going to be one bracket followed by the question, then two bracket followed by the question. And that is how we're going to be displaying our questions. So once we've displayed the number, the next thing we want to do is display the actual question. So we're going to have another print statement. And this time we're going to print out quizdata.json again. And inside the JSON format, we want to go to results. Then inside the results key, we want to access the ith key. That means for the first question, I is going to be 0. For the second question, I is going to be 1. So it's going to go all the way to 9. Then inside that, we want to access the questions key. So this simply is, we can look at the JSON that we printed before. So first it's going to go to the JSON, then it's going to go to the result keyword. So here is the results keyword, and the results keyword has a list. So in this list, there's a dictionary. So once we are in the list, we're going to access the ith element. So each dictionary is one question. So the ith element is going to be different questions. Then inside the dictionary, we're going to be accessing the question key, which is going to contain the actual question. So once we've printed out the question, the next thing we need to do is ask for the user's input. So that means it's either going to be true or false. So we're going to have a variable called user answer. So the user answer is going to have an input, which is going to ask for true or false. Then we want to capitalize our user's input. The reason we're doing that is because when we look at the correct answer key, the word true is the first letter is capitalized, so we want to match that. So we're going to capitalize the user's input. Then once we have the user's input, we're going to compare. So we're going to have an if statement. So we're going to say if user answer is equals to quizdata.json, then we're going to go to results, and we're going to go to I. Then we're going to go to the correct answer keyword. So we're going to have correct underscore answer. So this is going to access the ith element. That means it's going to go to results. So for example, when I is 0, it's going to go to results, and it's going to go to the first element. Then it's going to go to the correct answer key. Then the correct answer key contains true, so it's going to compare true to the user's input. So if it is equal to the correct answer, we want to print out correct, followed by a new line just for readability purposes. Then we want to increment the user's score by 1. Actually, we haven't defined our score variable, so we're going to do that. So here we're going to have a score variable, and we're going to set it to 0. So it's going to increment each time the user gets the question correct. And we're going to have an else statement. If the user doesn't get the question correct, we're going to print out incorrect, followed by a new line. And finally, when we're done with the for loop, that means we're going to print out 10 questions, and we're going to compare each answer of the user to the answer of the question. And we're going to increment the score if the user gets it right, or else we're going to print incorrect. And finally, when we are done, we're going to print out their result. So we're going to say print, and we're going to tell them you scored, followed by the score variable, out of, followed by the length variable. So let's say they answered 5 questions correctly. So it's going to say you scored 5 out of length is going to be 10. So it's going to say you scored 5 out of 10. This needs to be a formatted string so it can accept the different variables. So this should work properly, so we can now save our file and run it. As you can see, it's printed out the first question. It says, in the followed by some gibberish film franchise, Donkey is played by Eddie Murphy. So why are we getting this gibberish? That is because the API is returning our question and it's using an HTML format. So that is why we're getting these. So there is an easy way to fix this. So we're going to have to use another library, which is the HTML library. The HTML library contains a function called onEscape, which converts HTML components to strings. So we're going to be using that. So we're going to go back to our file and we're going to import HTML. Then we're going to go to where we printed out our question. Then here we're going to add HTML.onEscape. Then in parentheses, we're going to have our question. So this is going to convert the HTML component to a string. So now we can save our file. The other thing we need to do is check if we got the link correctly. We can do that using the status code. If the status code is equals to 200, that means we got our link successfully and we can continue. If it's different from 200, that means an error has occurred and we did not get our link. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an if statement that's going to check the status code. So we're going to have if quiz data dot status code. That's how we access the status code. And if that status code is equals to 200, then we want to do everything. So we're going to indent the whole code we wrote inside the if statement. Then if our status code is not equal to 200, we're going to have an else statement, which is going to print out an error has occurred. So this is all the code we need to write. Now we can save our file and we can run it again. So we're going to quit this and we're going to clear our terminal. Then we're going to run it using Python 3 followed by the name of our file. As you can see, there is no HTML anymore and it's working correctly. So let's just go through one round. It says a slug's blood is green. Let's go with through. So it prints out correct and it prints out the second question, which says pointers were not used in the original C programming language. They were added later on in C++. We're going to go with false. We're correct. The third question says Peyton Manning retired after winning Super Bowl. We're going to go with true. We're incorrect. The fourth question, former President John Adams and Thomas Jefferson died within hours of each other. We're going to go with false. Again, we're incorrect. The fifth question, in Splatoon, the Squid Sisters are named Taco and Yaki. Let's just go with true. Again, we're incorrect. The sixth question, the Pepe meme originated from a comic drawn by Matt Fury called Boys Club. Let's just go with true again. We're correct this time. The seventh question, in Sonic the Hedgehog universe, Tails' real name is Miles Prower. We're going to go with true. We're correct. The eighth question, in RuneScape, one must complete the Dragon Slayer quest before equipping rune platelets. We're going to go with false. We're correct. The ninth question, in Heroes of the Storm, the Cursed Hollow map, gimmick requires players to kill the undead to curse the enemy team. We're going to go with true. We're incorrect. The 10th question, Slovakia is a member of European Union. We're going to go with false. And we're also incorrect. As you can see, we scored 5 out of 10. So these are very random questions, but if you wanted a specific category, you can go back to the website and pick which category you want. Again, you can also change the number of questions. And finally, you can also change the question type. That means you can make it a multiple choice question. So this is it for our quiz game using the requests and the HTML library. Thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more daily programming videos.